This poem is about. Poems are all mutts, right? They're all hybrids. They're all. It's all a result of insidious crossbreeding. No such thing as originality. I mean, anyone who seems to be original is just someone who has managed to disguise the set of influences in a convincing and sort of seamless way. So this. Well, I guess I'll read this poem first. This poem really kind of steals. I just stole a couple of lines from someone else's poem. I came across a poem in a magazine, and it was a love poem. And it kind of confirmed Oscar Wilde's expression that all bad poetry springs from genuine feeling. Not to say that all poems of genuine feeling are bad, but that all bad poetry happens to spring from genuine feeling. They really mean it when they write those bad poems. And this poem is a love poem, and it continued the belief that began somewhere in the Italian Middle Ages, I think. The belief was that you could make a great deal of headway with a woman if you compared her to lots of things. And that's why it kind of dominated the sonnet. And this poet had not been delivered the news that this had pretty much died out as a seductive strategy. So his poem was just a kind of endless series of flattering, I suppose, comparisons. So I took the first two lines of his poem and, out of professional courtesy, just rewrote the poem for him. And so the first two lines of his poem are, to the beloved, right? He says to her, holding the hand, he says to her, "You are the bread and the knife, the crystal goblet and the wine." And I call my poem Litany. You are the bread and the knife, the crystal goblet and the wine. You are the dew on the morning grass and the burning wheel of the sun. You are the white apron of the baker and the marsh bird suddenly in flight. However, you are not the wind in the orchard, the plums on the counter, or the house of cards. And you are certainly not the pine-scented air. There is no way you are the pine-scented air. It is possible that you are the fish under the bridge, maybe even the pigeon on the general's head, but you are not even close to being the field of cornflowers at dusk. And a quick look in the mirror will show that you are neither the boots in the corner nor the boat asleep in its boathouse. It might interest you to know, speaking of the plentiful imagery of the world, that I am the sound of rain on the roof. I also happen to be the shooting star, the evening paper blowing down an alley, and the basket of chestnuts on the kitchen table. I am also the moon in the trees and the blind woman's teacup. But don't worry, I am not the bread and the knife. You are still the bread and the knife. You will always be the bread and the knife, not to mention the crystal goblet, and somehow the wine. Thanks. That was fun to write. This guy, all I know about this guy is he lives in Belgium, which I figured is safe. But one day he'll show up. So this poem is also about has that kind of turning in on another poem. It's about a haiku, and it's called Japan, and it comes in little 3-line haiku appearing stanzas, and as I said, it's called Japan. Today I pass the time reading a favorite haiku, saying the few words over and over. It feels like eating the same small perfect grape again and again. I walk through the house reciting it and leave its letters falling through the air of every room. I stand by the big silence of the piano and say it. I say it in front of a painting of the sea. I tap out its rhythm on an empty shelf. I listen to myself saying it, then I say it without listening, then I hear it without saying it. And when the dog looks up at me, I kneel down on the floor and whisper it into each of his long white ears. It's the one about the 1-ton temple bell with the moth resting on its surface. And every time I say it, I feel the excruciating pressure of the moth on the surface of the iron bell. When I say it at the window, the bell is the world, and I am the moth resting there. When I say it into the mirror, I am the heavy bell, and the moth is life with its papery wings. And later, when I say it to you in the dark, you are the bell, and I am the tongue of the bell, ringing you, and the moth has flown from its line and moves like a hinge in the air above our bed. I'd planned to take a little vacation, European vacation, and it had to be, things came up and it had to be canceled. So the summer was spent more or less hanging around the house in the suburbs of New York. And so I wrote this poem to console myself about that loss of experience. And it's called Consolation. How agreeable it is not to be touring Italy this summer, wandering her cities and ascending her torrid hill towns. How much better to cruise these local familiar streets, fully grasping the meaning of every road sign and billboard and all the sudden hand gestures of my compatriots. There are no abbeys here, no crumbling frescoes or famous domes, and there is no need to memorize a succession of kings or tour the dripping corners of a dungeon, no need to stand around a sarcophagus, see Napoleon's little bed on Elba, or view the bones of a saint under glass. How much better to command the simple precinct of home than be dwarfed by pillar, arch, and basilica? Why hide my head in phrase books and wrinkled maps? Why feed scenery into a hungry, one-eyed camera eager to eat the world, one monument at a time? Instead of slouching in a cafe, ignorant of the word for ice, I will head down to the coffee shop and to the waitress known as Dot. I will slide into the flow of the morning paper, all language barriers down, rivers of idiom running freely, eggs over easy on the way. And after breakfast, I will not have to find someone willing to photograph me with my arm around the owner. I will not puzzle over the bill or record in a journal what I had to eat and how the sun came in the window. It is enough to climb back into the car as if it were the great car of English itself, and sounding my loud vernacular horn, speed off down a road that will never lead to Rome, not even Bologna. Thank you so much. You've been a great audience, very responsive and large, and warm and large. That's the way I like my audiences. And I want to thank just the whole Georgia Tech program, but particularly Tom Lux and his faithful assistant Ginger Murchison and President Clough, who gave me a very nice welcome yesterday, and thank you all for attending. So I'll finish up with a poem. Well, it's about mortality, and that's what most poems are about. If you're death is pretty much our subject. Death is our thing. It's death is what gets us up in the morning. If you're not interested in death, you have no business being a poet. That's our big thing. And if you took any big the Norton anthology of poetry and you kind of snipped out all the poems about mortality, you would have sort of the Norton pamphlet of Norton brochure of English literature. So that's the obsessive vein that runs through all poetry.